The Panthers might have lost 4-0 against the Tampa Bay Lightning, but more importantly, they avoided a serious injury to their star, Matthew Tkachuk.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Tuesday, December 24th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at Monoman12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And you could also follow the show on Blue Sky at LOFLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So we are recording this the morning after the Florida Panthers lose to the Tampa Bay Lightning by a final score of 4-0 from Sunrise on the second end of a back-to-back on this home-and-home Battle of Florida right before the holiday break. And did all the stuff from Sunday really carry over into Monday's game for the Panthers and Lightning? And after the Tampa Bay Lightning went up 3-0, it got heated after one aggressive check from Nikita Kucherov on Matthew Tkachuk that led to a 5-minute major and a game misconduct, and the floodgates all open from there in this matchup. And here to break down more of this 4-0 loss for the Florida Panthers and more of the state of the rivalry between these two teams, he is from Lemon City Live, and you could also check out his baseball coverage on Fish on First, Alex Krutchik. And Alex, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thank you, Armando. Thank you for having me back, and happy holidays to you as well.
Happy holidays to you, my friend. So great to do one show right before the holiday break. Holiday break's coming at a great time, which we'll get more into segment number 2. And we get for the Panthers, man, after a game like this, it was the holiday break really came at a great time. But let's go right into this game for the Panthers, second end of a back-to-back, as we mentioned. But really, the 3 goals that they gave up for them really came down to their inability to eliminate quality shot chances off of back checks. I mean, the first one where there was like a little bit of a tangle between Sam Bennett and Erik Cernak, there was a little bit of a shift of a line change there where they were not unable to get Nikita Kucherov cover him, and then he's able to beat Sergei Bobrovsky. And then later on, there was also a little bit of a mix-up with Matthew Tkachuk in the Lightning zone, and then that ended up in the back of the Panthers net as well, that one by Jake Guentzel. And then even on the penalty that the Panthers took, it was in result of getting crossed up in the neutral zone, and then Eetu Luostarinen was forced into the penalty box due to having to try to stop Braden Point from going through the Panther zone. And then the Tampa Bay Lightning capitalized on the power play. And what were your thoughts when you were seeing the Lightning just get goals in bunches off the rush?
Yeah, it just seemed like the back checking just really wasn't there. Like they weren't really out in front all on their own. The Panthers were able to get guys in front of their rush, but they just weren't clicking. They just weren't stopping the Lightning the way that they usually do. They're usually pretty good on the rush, and they were just kind of letting them come into the zone and not put up much of a fight. The Lightning were able to get some really good passes on there and get some really wide open looks. There was a couple of those goals where Bobrovsky had close to zero chance of stopping just because of how wide open the shooting lane was.
Yeah, and let's now get to the elephant in the room that happened for this game, when right after the Tampa Bay Lightning went up 3-0, and it was a zone entry by the Florida Panthers. Matthew Tkachuk tries distributing it to Gustav Forsling from point to point, and then a knee-on-knee collision from Nikita Kucherov on Matthew Tkachuk. And it's so scary, not only the collision when that happens, but when you see Matthew Tkachuk flying in the air and spinning and then landing, having to get wave for assistance for the Panthers training staff. And think about and a lot of people were tweeting, oh, not putting any weight on his leg, but I looked at the replay again. I rewinded a little bit, and there was a little bit of a limp there, but still some weight on the leg. So right before commercial break and looking back into because that happened right before the intermission, I'm just thinking, okay, some weight. It didn't look too bad. I mean, and we saw Matthew Tkachuk play with a broken sternum in the 2023 Stanley Cup Final, which Paul Maurice alluded to in his post game. But I want to get not only your thoughts on the hit from Nikita Kucherov, but just your reaction when you watched this live when the Panthers were still on that 5-minute power play. And then once they got 2 more power plays, 2.5 minutes into the second period, you see the crowd giving an ovation right before Steve Goldstein and Randy Moller could even say something. You hear the crowd, and the first thing you're thinking, Matthew Tkachuk's coming back up the tunnel, isn't he?
Yeah, like what you alluded to, the fact that Tkachuk went down so quickly and didn't even attempt to get up was such a red flag as to how severe this injury was. Because like you said, he's played with a broken sternum before. He gets hit hard by other players. Like, he's got a target on his back. This isn't the first time that he's been hit really hard. So the fact that he was on all fours, just like scooting himself to the bench and was putting, when a guy gets escorted to the bench by a trainer, sometimes you just got an arm around the trainer or something. But he had like his entire weight on the trainer. Like, the trainer had to drag him off the ice. And when you see Matthew Tkachuk have to get dragged off the ice, that's a really big red flag. I was in the middle of writing an article about how he left the game and didn't return because I just kind of assumed that he wasn't going to return. I didn't post it yet because I still had to wait to see if he would return, but I was in the middle of writing. Matthew Tkachuk leaves game, doesn't return, and then all of a sudden I hear a bunch of cheers, and I look up and I'm like, what just happened? Did they just score? And then I see Matthew Tkachuk get back out on the ice, and I got to be honest, I didn't even think that was a remote possibility. I thought, okay, hopefully he'll be back after the new year is over at some point. We've got to start thinking of how this lineup will look without him. We've got to start thinking about acquisitions that they can make to sort of shore up the hole that's being left there. And then I see him come back in the middle of the second period. It was crazy.
Yeah, there are points where I'm thinking, oh no, the Panthers are going to have to dig into LTIR possibly. This could be something that, because you just never know, especially with the shin pad there, the covering, you can't necessarily see 100% which direction that knee goes into for them. But thankfully, they do have that padding there that helps protect them. And really, the floodgates once again opened after that for the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning in this one. Even clean checks for the Panthers were causing post whistle stuff for the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Panthers. I mean, Dmitry Kulikov laid a hit on Gonsalves, and then Nick Paul and Lilleberg ganged up on Dmitry Kulikov there. And then, once after Matthew Tkachuk did come back, Luke Glendening tried dumping the puck from once he gained the red line. And then, maybe that was that I thought that was the right call for Matthew Tkachuk to go to the box, but I can understand the frustration part of that whenever whenever a teammate whenever an opponent, tries to injure you. And because Matthew Tkachuk came back into the game, by the way, I don't think Nikita Kucherov is going to face a suspension for him. But I mean, it was just chaos that ensued for this one for the Panthers. And really, credit to Aaron Ekblad for also defending his teammate right away the moment that hit was laid. And there were times where I'm just thinking, man, the referees, I thought for the most part they kept the game in control, but whenever you see a star player go down and then a teammate of his go defend it, I really didn't agree with the roughing call that Aaron Ekblad got there. But you gotta also try to not make things worse as far as things post whistle for these two teams, especially when they face in 2 straight days.
Which is fair. You got to arbitrate things as best as you could. Maybe if it was any other 2 teams, they wouldn't have sent Ekblad to the box, but because of the situation, they probably just wanted to get as many of these guys off the ice as possible. Not as many of these guys as possible, but just with Ekblad doing what he did, they just wanted to get guys off the ice and have things cool down, even though the just thing to do would have been to let Ekblad stand up for his teammate for a few seconds and then, push them apart. But understand sending him to the box for a couple minutes.
No doubt. And thankfully Matthew Tkachuk is okay. But for the Panthers here, there was a lot of times during this game where the Panthers had guys going into the locker room or guys banged up, and including one of their defensemen who missed the entirety of the second period. We are going to discuss more of this on the other side of this commercial break here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. And if you love sports, you're going to love Prize Picks, the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it's hockey, football, or any of your favorite sports, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the action. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30 million in rewards during Picksmas and offering 2 free picks in December. And when your picks hit, Prize Picks makes it easy to cash out. You can get your money in as fast as 15 minutes. This week on Prize Picks, you could get in on the hockey board. No games this week to get, but you could eye maybe someone like a Jack Hughes to get more than 4 shots on goal once the NHL does return to action on Friday, and Artemi Panarin to get more than 1 assist. It's so simple to make the picks and have fun with friends while potentially cashing out fast. So download the app and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly, and you can do that all on Prize Picks. Run your game. And I'd like to thank you guys once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Tuesday, edition of the show. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas Eve to everyone out there who are celebrating. Happy Hanukkah to everyone who celebrates it, which begins tomorrow. And the World Juniors is coming up on Boxing Day, so a lot of holidays to celebrate, and also some hockey as well, right before the NHL returns on Friday. So, Alex, I want to discuss more about the injury updates and just the amount of how hard Paul Maurice's job was last night in a game that got so out of control with the Panthers. We didn't even get to mention that after the Panthers went on that 5-minute major, they had a little bit of a push in the second period, 15-0 shot attempt advantage at one point in this one. They really felt a push, but for the Panthers, it really felt that they ran out of gas for them. It was a lack of a net front presence. They showed the shot chart at the end of the game, and a lot of them was perimeter based for the Panthers there. And when on the opposition, when you're seeing a goaltender like Jonas Johansson, he's not an Andre Vasilevsky. For each team, when it comes to backup goaltender, you have to play more conservatively around them instead of jumping up into play and then there's a rush going the other way, which the Panthers didn't get their rush game going much. I mean, we saw at times with Rasmus Asplund, I thought he had a great rush opportunity. There's one 2-on-1 that was broken up for the Panthers early on in the second period on their power play. But Jojo was able to play the puck and stop it after he coughed it up. But for the Panthers here, I mean, it really showed that they played 10 of their last 13 on the road right before this holiday break.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that second period especially, it wasn't for a lack of trying. They did seem to run out of gas in the third period, but that second period, like, they had several chances to get something in the net. And credit to Johansson, like, he played really well. He's not the best goalie, but he's on this weird 3-game stretch where he's given up 3 goals in 3 games, and he's won his last 3 as a result. He did a pretty good job. Lundell had a wide open net in the beginning of the second period. He got stopped. Verhaeghe had a pretty wide open net in the first period. He was stopped with a glove save. They got quality shots on him. I guess, like you said, the one critique would be that it wasn't enough traffic in front of the net, but they did get shots on him, and they were quality shots, but probably not as quality as it could have been. He did pretty well. I do want to give a shout out to the fourth line, though. They had 5 high danger scoring chances, according to Natural Stat Trick. Rasmus Asplund got out in front on his own. It looked like he was about to get his first NHL goal. He got stonewalled by Johansson. Noshik got right out in front. Was it? It was Asplund actually that stole the puck away from Johansson behind the net, feeds it to Noshik in front of the net, and then he got the puck was saved by a Lightning defenseman. So that
Nick
fourth
Perbix
line was working. What's that?
Nick Perbix on that one.
Yeah,
got that block.
So that fourth line was all around the net. They did good in trying to get something going, but unfortunately, no dice there.
Yeah, and just under 40 minutes of total 5-on-5 play, 39 minutes and 54 seconds total in this one. And for the Paul Maurice having a tough job because, I mean, as soon as there was one hit that Carter Verhaeghe laid on Eric Chernak that actually sandwiched him and Sam Reinhart right behind the net, and then you see him go to the locker room after. There was points in this game where Carter Verhaeghe was missing in this one, or he had to go to the locker room. AJ Greer tried going for a check on Asamot. He flips over on him and then goes into the boards. Niko Mikkola also was missing in the third period, did not play at all in that one, which Paul Maurice said he's day-to-day for him there. So it was really about just getting to the end of this one. And I have a question for you, Alex, and I asked you this in our pre-production meeting for you to think about. And did you forget at times that this was a 3-0 game with everything going on around the whistles and everything in between, with the finishing of the checks, the guys going into the locker room? There were times where I was just forgetting about the score of the game and just like, oh, the Panthers are still down 3-0 after all this. And it felt that the score of the game didn't really matter as much. It was all I was thinking was get healthy, get out of this in one piece.
That's exactly what it was. Like after Tkachuk came back, I said, oh my God, this is such a good game for the Panthers. This is such a good game. They got so lucky. I'm so happy right now for them. And then I realized after the end of the second period, oh, it's still 3-0. Like they're still losing pretty badly. The fact that Tkachuk came back, there was a huge standing ovation. Like you absolutely forget that you're down 3-0. Although it was 3-0 at the time. Yeah, so you do forget that it was 3-0. AJ Greer leaves, and then he comes back, and you think, oh my God, we got so lucky. Same with Carter Verhaeghe. We got so lucky. Oh my God, he's back. We're healthy. Let's stay healthy. You totally forget about the score because you feel like it's a win just to get Tkachuk back after what we saw. Yeah,
and for them with how physical these Battle of Floridas do get for them, and the hit discrepancy. I'm trying to pull this up right now for the Panthers and the Lightning here on this one. 32-13 for the Panthers. So the Panthers obviously pissed off for a good reason after what happened in the first period after they went up 3-0 there for them, and also the carryover for previous years. I mean, we saw a hit that Kucherov had on Anthony Duclair in the first round playoff series back in 2021. There was a Brandon Hagel check that he boarded at Toulouse-Thurinien in the second round that eventually ended in a sweep. So a lot of those guys are part of the rivalry. But even Steve Goldstein mentioned this after the final horn, which that even continued after. It's also the new guys getting into the mix of it after, not only on the Florida Panthers side of things, but the Tampa Bay Lightning side of things. So it's new guys getting into the rivalry and still wanting to be a part of this, knowing that the history is there. I know in the beginning of the season, I spoke about the Panthers' biggest rival is possibly the Boston Bruins because of how close those series have been. A six game series and a 7-game series. I know in the Battle of Florida, necessarily, none of those series have been necessarily close in result, whether it's been the Panthers winning or the Lightning winning. But man, it's a stretch like this in these last 2 days that remind me how much the Battle of Florida has really grown. And once again, Barkov mentioned it happens when you see each other in the postseason about things getting heated.
Absolutely. Like, these guys were brawling in the preseason. Like, no one brawls in the preseason, but these guys were, because it's real life, unadulterated hatred of each other, which you don't see a whole lot in professional sports anymore. And it's so fun to see. Like, it's not manufactured. It's not like, oh, they play in the same state, so let's all hate them. And it's not one of those fan base rivalries where the fan bases hate each other, but the teams don't really care. Like, no, everyone really hates each other, and it's so fun to watch. And it's one of those cool things where, like, yeah, we spent a lot of time last year thinking about, look at how far the Panthers have come, look how full the arena is, look how good they're playing, but also think of the fact that the most intense rivalry in the NHL is probably Florida versus Tampa. And if it's not the most, it's one of the most. Look how far we've all come. Like, look how far the state of Florida has come. Where, like, the most intense rivalry is here, like, and people really care about it. There's only been 2 teams in the last 5 years that have won the Eastern Conference, and they're both from Florida. Like, it's a big deal. I remember back in the day where, like, both of these teams were an afterthought. And even when the Lightning were solid, they had a few solid years, unlike the Panthers, like back in the 2000s. Like, it still just didn't really matter between the 2 teams. And now it does. Like, for the last 5 years, the conferences run through Florida. You either got to go to Tampa or you got to go to Sunrise. But either way, you got to come to Florida.
And for these 2 teams, they also don't have a short memory. I mean, we saw it with Jason Zucker last year after that hit on Nick Cousins that boarded him into the glass for him and had him out for a long period of time. And when the Panthers and the Coyotes met a second time, Nick Cousins was still not back. And then Ryan Lomberg went up to Jason Zucker at warmup saying, it's going down. You realize that. And then it was a whole line brawl for them. And then when Jason Zucker got traded to the Predators and then came to Florida, Nick Cousins was able to get his revenge on Jason Zucker there when in that matchup back in I believe it was March earlier this year for them. But March 3rd this year, Panthers Lightning on a Monday night. Mark your calendars, ladies and gentlemen, because that is going to be another one of those games where the Panthers are once again going to have a very long memory. And the worst part about it is it's 3 months from now, but don't think that they're just going to easily forget about everything. And it's going to be another one of those heated matchups for these 2 teams. And Monday March 3rd. Yeah. So
yeah, and that's another thing that you just kind of touched on, was that's also how you can tell that this is a real rivalry that's going to last for a little while, is like a lot of these players are gone, like Duclair, Zucker, Cousins, Lomberg, Gudis, like they're all gone. And the guys that are still there still hate each other, and the guys that just got here hate each other. Because you mentioned AJ Greer going after these guys at the end of the final whistle. Like, the new guys care. Paul Maurice cared a couple of years ago when he first got here. So the fact that it's transcending different rosters and it's still carrying over from different rosters and different cores, like, that's how you know that it's a real rivalry. It's not just a moment in time.
No doubt. And good point there for you there, for you pointing that out there. March 3rd, that's going to be something to look forward to for sure. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we are going to put a little bit more of a holiday theme into this edition of the show, as the holiday break has arrived for the entirety of the NHL. We're going to ask the question, why the Panthers are not getting cold during the holidays. We are going to discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and you can now start winning big at FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, and it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways that you could pick up a W, and I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. It's thrilling. And just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, third and final segment here on this Tuesday, December 24th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, here with Alex Krutchik of Lemon City Live. And once again, you could also catch his baseball coverage on Fish on First there. And a little bit of a holiday theme that we could that I want to put on here for the Panthers. And 22, 12, and 2 for the Panthers, still leading the division after all that of being on the road so much. This is that. Yeah, last night was the first of 5 straight at home. So thankfully the travel is going to be light for the Panthers, and we're going to discuss why the Panthers are not getting coal during the holiday season. Presents are distributed at this time. NHL teams, some teams are getting coal, some teams are not, but there's not enough coal to go around. So that's going to leave the Panthers not getting them. And a few reasons why that I have for here. A few of them are 68 wins in the calendar year of 2024, Alex, which is the most in a calendar year for the Panthers. And another one, Sam Reinhart. Everything that he's done with the 57 goals last year, carrying it over to this year, and also some off the ice stuff for the Panthers just as an organization. They distributed just last week rings to their staff members and also their season ticket holders of 30 years with the franchise. So that's another reason why the Panthers are not getting coal this holiday season. Your reasons why the Panthers are not going to be receiving it.
I have one stat, and then I have one more of a concept. 126 goals scored for the Panthers, which is the second most in the league, tied for second most in the league, which is great for a defensive first Paul Maurice team.
Yes.
Not only are they playing solid defense, but it could improve some. But they're also scoring a lot. And they're getting it from a few different guys. And then more of a concept. After everything that has happened, after all the injuries, all the illnesses, after a little bit of underperformance at times from all aspects of the game, really, power play, goaltending at times, defense at times, scoring droughts at times, this team is still atop the Atlantic Division, and they are still near the top of the East. They're third in the East. If you want to bring it to baseball, it kind of reminds me of like the Yankees. I know the Yankees haven't won a World Series since 2009, so just ignore that part. But they've been really, really good pretty much every season since then. And sometimes I follow a lot of Yankee fans on Twitter, and sometimes in the middle of the season you'll hear them say, "Oh my God, we're terrible. We have to blow up the team. We have to fire the GM. We've got to." I'm not saying people are saying that about the Panthers, but people will complain and talk about how concerned they are and how a lot of things need to change. And then you look at the standings and you realize, oh, they're only in third place in the East, and that's why people are freaking out. So the fact that brings it all back around to the reason that the Panthers won't get coal is because even when they're bad, quote unquote, they're still getting it done. They're on a 7. They're 7-3 in their last 10. They're still atop the East. They are still finding ways to get it done, even when they don't look perfect.
Yeah, good reasons there for that you listed there. And I mean, I think of and tying this back into last night's loss for the Panthers. I mean, when you think of regular season losses, it once again helps you think of, it helps me at least think more big picture for the Panthers. I mean, once again, the Panthers got swept in the regular season by the Boston Bruins and then faced off against each other in the second round, where that ultimately matters for them. I mean, when the Miami Heat Big Three were together, they got swept by the Brooklyn Nets in one regular season, and then if the Indiana Pacers beat them in like a regular season game, you just shrug your shoulders and say, okay, there's more big picture things to just think about here, and just think of more things down the road. I mean, and hey, the Heat have provided the most winning in this region for the last 20 plus years, even though they're currently in a state of mediocrity right now for them. But still, you think about all the constant, the giving yourself more darts. I'm sure Alexander Barkov would approve of that what I'm of the reference, but giving yourself more darts and opportunities to hit the dartboard, and to give yourself more opportunities to win there for them. And thankfully, even when things go off the rails a little bit, it's not things that just get out of control and even leak to the media. Even though we like talking about the teams, we dig for stories, but it's not leaked out for the Panthers, and we don't have to talk about teammates not getting along with each other, like what's going on in Vancouver currently with Elias Pettersson and JT Miller. You're not seeing guys getting scratched, like recently for the New York Rangers, Chris Kreider for them in a 5-0 loss just yesterday against the New Jersey Devils, and also other things. I mean, also Matt Rempe, another suspension for him after a hit on Miro Heiskanen there, and also the fact that you just chug along and you never get too high in whenever there's a win, you never get too low when there's a loss. It's the even keel that the Panthers continue to go in night in and night out. And we had to remind ourselves that there was a stretch just 2 or 3 weeks ago where they lost 6 of 7. So, and right now they're right back in at the top of the division. And I'm not worried about the overall Eastern Conference standings. Hey, win your division, you play your rounds, and hey, who knows? One of the wild card teams could end up being in the Eastern Conference final if the Panthers do so make it, and they could even have that home ice advantage. It's just like the President's Trophy last year. They found a way to still beat the President's Trophy winners, not having home ice last year, and we're still able to get a Game 7 at home in the Stanley Cup final. So it's, once again, for the Panthers, it's just knowing that there are bigger things on the horizon.
Exactly, and they've got this almost perfect balance of urgency. Like when they're in those stretches, they take it seriously. You know, they don't, like Paul Maurice was even asked after one of the losses a few weeks ago, is this one of those losses where you just kind of throw it away? And he said, no, like you don't throw it away. You have to talk about it. You have to work through it. But at the same time, they don't panic. They don't throw guys under the bus. They rarely show any sort of frustration on the ice. They have this very good balance of urgency while also knowing who they are and knowing that the system works as long as they stick to the system. And I think that's what keeps them from ever spiraling too much.
Yeah. And you said that best when Paul Maurice said that they need to talk about it. It's just because if you don't, then I mean that just also goes into like ties in different parts of life, whether it's your personal relationships, your platonic, romantic, everything else. If you're just avoiding it over and over and over again, eventually you're going to explode and things are going to come out, and then tensions are really going to go high. So for everything in the locker room. And the fact that they give themselves that room, like maybe an open door policy, I'm not going to pretend like we know everything when we're not in the locker rooms talking to the guys, but still the fact that they are honest with themselves throughout these bad stretches, when they do go on a bad stretch, it really goes to show like a really mature group. And thankfully, with once again Paul Maurice's experience of 20 plus years of coaching, he's just he's there to calm things down when necessary, and also the leadership steps up big time over and over again for this group. But Alex, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Happy holidays to you and your family, and grateful for you to join me here right before we hit the holiday break. And we won't have an episode until probably Friday. So I hope for the listeners, happy holidays to all of you, and we'll be back here possibly on Friday, maybe Saturday. But before we go, Alex, tell everybody where they can follow you online.
Yes. So I write about Florida Panthers hockey at lemoncitylive.com. I write about Miami Marlins baseball at fishonfirst.com. You can find both of those on my Twitter at Alex Krutchik FOF. For those that are listening, it's AlexKrutchik FOF on Twitter.
Awesome, Alex. Thank you so much and hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, Armando. Thank you for having me, and happy holidays.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Alex Krutchik, and you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.